Coming up on this Monday edition of Daybreak, 4 followers of a religious cult led by Yoo Byung-eun, the de facto owner of the sunken Sewol-ho ferry, have been arrested for helping him evade prosecutors. North Korea and Japan will hold a meeting of senior diplomats in Sweden today as Tokyo looks to speed up discussions on the Japanese nationals kidnapped by North Korea decades ago. First, Petro Poroshenko claims victory in Ukraine's presidential vote after exit polls suggest he won an outright victory. Daybreak begins now.
Hello and thanks for joining us, to our viewers around the world. It's 6 a.m. on Monday, May 26th here in Seoul. I'm Mark Broom and you're tuned in to Daybreak. And we start with the latest on the investigation into the Sewol-ho ferry disaster. Authorities say the fugitive de facto owner of the ferry was spotted in southern Korea, but has since dropped off the radar. This is the first time Yoo Byung-eun has been seen since the accident almost 6 weeks ago now. Connie Lee starts us off.
One of the most wanted men in Korea has been spotted after being on the run for about a week. Prosecutors have confirmed that Yoo Byung-eun, the de facto owner of the sunken Sewol-ho ferry, was in Suncheon, southern Korea, just days ago. Investigators say Yoo is no longer in the city, but the sighting confirms that the 73-year-old was in fact in the country and may still be in Korea. Also on Sunday, authorities arrested 4 people for allegedly helping Yoo flee. Prosecutors say all 4 of them are members of the religious cult led by the ferry owner, and that one of the arrests was made after the person was seen on surveillance cameras at the religious cult's headquarters. To help with the search, the cash rewards for information on Yoo and his eldest son have gone up. Prosecutors are now offering up to $500,000 for anyone with information on the elder Yoo and almost $100,000 for tips on the son. And in related news from Korea's southwestern island of Chindo, efforts to find the bodies of those still missing from the sunken Sewol-ho ferry have been halted for now and could remain stalled until Monday. Bad weather conditions, including fast tidal currents and foggy conditions, have prevented divers from searching for the last 16 bodies still underwater. No bodies have been recovered since Wednesday, and the death toll stands at 288. But officials say that once the weather conditions improve, they will attempt to use remotely operated vehicles or ROVs to facilitate the search. Connie Lee, Arirang News.
Now, some of the people hit hardest by the Sewol-ho ferry disaster are the owners of small and mid-sized businesses near the site of the sinking. More than 11,000 tours have been cancelled since the disaster, denting the incomes of tour operators and related businesses. Government officials processing state aid requests say they have allocated more than $11.4 million in new loans to firms in areas close to the sinking since the aid program began in mid-May. But government data shows the delivery has been quite slow, primarily because many small businesses can't actually meet these strict qualification requirements. Business owners are calling on the government to establish a special rescue fund. North Korea and Japan will hold yet another round of government-level talks in Sweden for 3 days from this Monday. Tokyo is expected to demand an investigation into the issue of Japanese abductees, while Pyongyang will likely call for eased sanctions in return. Now, Kim Min-ji reports.
Senior officials from North Korea and Japan will sit down for government-level talks on this Monday in Stockholm, following up on the two countries' first talks in more than a year in March. The Japanese delegation will be led by Junichi Ihara, chief of the Asian and Oceanian Affairs Bureau at Japan's Foreign Ministry, while Song Il-ho, North Korean ambassador for handling relations with Japan, will lead Pyongyang's delegation. A range of issues are expected to be discussed during the 3-day meeting, but the Japanese abductee issue will likely top the agenda. Tokyo is expected to call for a reinvestigation into the whereabouts of Japanese nationals who were allegedly abducted by North Korea in the 1970s and 80s.
The Abe administration has a strong determination to solve the abductee issue no matter what, and we will consider all methods.
North Korea will likely demand Japan to ease sanctions in return.
We plan to negotiate on issues regarding how to implement the North Korea-Japan Pyongyang Declaration and also any issues that could follow after the implementation.
Attention is also on whether the North Korean delegation will include an official from its state security agency. The agency reportedly played a big role during the visit of then-Japanese Prime Minister Junichiro Koizumi to Pyongyang in 2002. Likewise, Japan is also expected to slot in a cabinet official that handles North Korean affairs. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi is set to arrive in Seoul on this Monday for a two-day trip. This is the first time he'll be travelling to South Korea since he took office. South Korea's Foreign Minister Yoo Byung-eun and Wang are expected to discuss issues regarding North Korea. A South Korean government official says Seoul will ask for Beijing's cooperation in stopping Pyongyang from pursuing its nuclear ambitions and conducting another fourth nuclear test. Wang will meet with President Park Geun-hye before leaving on Tuesday. He will likely fine-tune the details of Chinese President Xi Jinping's scheduled visit to South Korea next month as well. Now, former Japanese Prime Minister Tomiichi Murayama says acknowledging Japan's responsibility for war was not for Korea or China, but actually for Japan itself. In a special lecture in Tokyo Sunday, the 91-year-old politician stressed the Murayama statement was not a personal, but rather an official, unanimous cabinet decision, which was highly valued by the international community, including its Asian neighbours. As for the current Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's push to allow Tokyo to exercise its collective self-defense right by reinterpreting Japan's pacifist constitution, Murayama said that if that happens, the constitution will lose its meaning. The right to collective self-defense essentially means Japan would be able to respond militarily if an ally came under attack. The Murayama statement, released in 1995, apologized for the damage Japan caused its Asian neighbors during World War II. Japan and China have accused each other's air forces of dangerous behavior near a disputed island chain in the East China Sea. Japan says Chinese fighters came within 50 meters of a Japanese surveillance plane, and it accused China of, quote, going over the top in its approach to the territorial dispute surrounding the Senkaku or Diaoyu Islands. China's defense ministry argues that Japanese planes entered China's air defense zone and carried out what it said were dangerous actions during China's joint maritime exercises with Russia. Regional tensions have been running high over Beijing's territorial claims, and defense analysts around the world fear the tensions could eventually escalate beyond just verbal warnings.
We start before the sun rises to bring you the latest stories out of Korea. We also lead the way with important global coverage. Stay on the pulse of what is happening with Daybreak.
Now there's just over 1 week remaining before the local elections here in Korea, and the main rival parties were out campaigning over the weekend in the most hotly contested constituencies. The ruling Saenuri Party stumped in Gyeonggi-do province, a key battleground that is home to the victims and their families of the Sewol-ho ferry disaster, while the opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy campaigned in Seoul and in Incheon. A new education proposal became a controversial issue over the weekend, in fact, after Kim Jin-pyo, the opposition candidate for Gyeonggi-do province governor, promised to make daycare centre workers government employees to boost their job stability. The ruling Saenuri Party blasted his proposal, saying it would cost the country, the economy, roughly $10 billion. Now, Samsung Electronics chairman Lee has regained consciousness for the first time since his heart attack on May 10th. Doctors at Samsung Medical Center say Lee has been improving by the day now, and they expressed optimism the 72-year-old would soon regain other cognitive functions. They added that his heart, lungs and other organs remain in, quote, perfectly good shape. Lee, who helped build Samsung Electronics into one of the world's biggest tech firms, has undergone a procedure to widen his blood vessels and has had a stent implanted to maintain blood flow to his heart. Now, the number of household loans given out by Korean banks has dropped to a 13-year low. The Bank of Korea says that by the end of 2013, household loans represented less than 42% of the roughly $472 billion in total bank loans. That's the lowest percentage since the year 2000. Last year was a different story. A growing number of people borrowed really rather heavily to finance their high mortgages. The central bank says stricter borrowing criteria at banks has meant more households are turning to non-monetary institutions, even though the interest rates there are higher than banks. The government is moving to tackle the growing problem of child abuse here in Korea. The Justice Ministry aims to propose a law that would fine people close to $5,000 for failing to report child abuse. The ministry hopes the law will better protect children from continued abuse and ensure abusers are punished. 22 children died in Korea as a result of child abuse last year. That's the highest number recorded since the National Child Protection Agency began compiling data in 2001. Between then and 2012, a total of 97 children, or an average of 8 per year, have died as a result of domestic violence or child abuse. 8 of the victims were newborns and 5 were under the age of 2. Now, getting a flat tyre can be a real drag, but having a blowout while driving can cause serious injury, even death. Researchers here in Korea say these worries may soon be consigned to the past, though, as they have developed tyres that are almost impossible to puncture. Suncheon reports.
A group of researchers placed several ping-pong balls onto a platform carrier to measure the vibration caused by wheels. They installed average tires onto one platform and so-called smart tires onto the other one. When running on the road, the balls on average tires bounce continuously due to the vibration. However, the ping-pong balls on smart tires stay relatively still and the tires run without making much noise. Researchers say the secret lies in a structure inside the wheels that disperse the weight of air added to the tires. Using a cushion effect, they have solved the problem of both vibration and noise.
The air pressure applied on the tires is dispersed inside, causing a cushion effect.
The smart tires do not require it to be made of rubber, which means less of a chance of getting a flat tire. Among new tires introduced by multinational companies, these locally developed smart tires are well received.
I believe the technology to disperse the pressure is superior than the so-called hive structure developed in other countries.
Experts believe the smart tire, which is currently being introduced on carts and beds, is sure to lead the global tire industry once it is further developed. 손정인, Arirang News.
Now, frequent air travellers beware, because airplanes may be one of the most convenient and quickest ways to get around, but they're certainly not the cleanest or the most hygienic. Our Paulie has this report.
From armrests to seats and tray tables, just about anything you come into contact with on airplanes will be swarming with disease-causing bacteria. And making matters worse, these dangerous germs can linger for days. A team of researchers at Auburn University took actual parts of an airplane and examined the ability of bacteria to survive on their surfaces in real cabin conditions. The experiment found that methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus survived for 6 days on armrests and 5 days on tray tables. The bacteria, which is resistant to almost all drugs and can be life-threatening, lived up to a week inside seat pockets. The E. coli bacteria, which can cause intestinal inflammation, thrived for 4 days on armrests and 3 days on tray tables.
We figure out that these pathogens can remain on these surfaces over a week, and there is a high risk of them being transmitted from these surfaces to the fingers of the passengers.
A U.S. airline company, however, said that passengers shouldn't be worried, as disinfection procedures are routinely carried out inside the cabins every day. But experts advise passengers should wash their hands frequently and bring along a packet of sanitary wipes just to be safe. Paul Yi, Arirang News.
Time now for a look through the international headlines we're following this morning. For that, we turn to our Eunice Kim, standing by at the news center. Good morning, Eunice.
And good morning to you, Mark. Billionaire candy tycoon Petro Poroshenko has claimed victory in Ukraine's presidential elections, vowing to end the months-long conflict riddling his country and align it with Europe. Exit polls for Sunday's elections gave the 48-year-old nearly 56% of the vote, clearing him to bypass a runoff against the runner-up with a majority, former Prime Minister Yulia Tymoshenko. Now, Poroshenko is no new face in politics, having served in the cabinet of ousted President Viktor Yanukovych and the administration before it. Ukraine's Elections Commission said turnout was at about 60%, though less than 20% of the polling stations were open in Eastern Europe. The region was marred with tension and violence as rebels disrupted Sunday's voting in Donetsk and pro-Russian rebels in Luhansk attacked polling stations. Thai military sources say former Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra is no longer in military custody after she and some 150 others were summoned to report to the ruling military junta on Friday. The source says she was allowed to walk out on Friday after being instructed to, quote, help maintain peace and order, but her aides say she does not have freedom of movement or communication. Meanwhile, the junta issued warnings through various broadcast channels on Sunday to avoid protests, as normal democratic principles cannot be applied at this time. Despite the ban on political gatherings, more than 1,000 demonstrators protesting the coup marched across the capital of Bangkok over the weekend, and more are expected on this Monday. Pope Francis is in the Middle East this Monday morning, and during his three-day trip, he visited and prayed at Israel's controversial separation barrier. The wall was put up 10 years ago by Israeli leaders who say it is necessary to stave off attacks by Palestinians. In Bethlehem, the Argentinian pontiff called the breakdown in peace talks between Israel and Palestine, quote, unacceptable, and in an apparently spontaneous move, invited leaders of both sides to the Vatican next month. His trip comes on the 50th anniversary of a historic meeting of Catholic and Orthodox leaders whose churches split in the year 1054. And U.S. President Barack Obama made a surprise visit to Afghanistan on Sunday. Speaking to military commanders at Bagram Air Base, he said his administration will make some decisions soon, including how many boots the U.S. will keep on the ground as Washington cuts down on its presence after 13 years. A bulk of the troops are scheduled to be sent home by the end of the year. The trip falls on Memorial Day weekend in the U.S., and it is the U.S. president's fourth trip to Afghanistan.
And a good Monday morning to you all as we kick things off in the LPGA with the Airbus LPGA Classic. Now, Park In-bi, who's currently ranked #1 in the world for the 58th consecutive week, went into the event hoping to win her first LPGA title this season. Fortunately for her, she didn't even make the cut after the second round. After shooting a 74 and a 76, Park In-bi misses the cut for the first time since May 23rd of last year at the Prayer Silk Bahamas Classic. Meanwhile, Stacey Lewis, who has had a great weekend, has a chance at taking over the top ranking in the LPGA as she's currently threatening Park In-bi's 58 straight weeks at the top of the LPGA ranking. And now moving over to some Sunday's KBO action, the Kia Tigers win one over the Lotte Giants 7-5 with the SK Wyverns beating the LG Twins 9-6, and the Samsung Lions crushed the Nexen Heroes 18-2 for their 11th straight win. Meanwhile, let's take a look at the red-hot Hanwha Eagles take on the Tucson Bears. And of course, going into the game, here we go over to the first inning. Men on second and third. Kim Tae-gyun grounds out to third. This scores Lee Yong-gyu, and it's 1-0 Hanwha. Next batter, Felix Pie here with a clutch single to right, and it's now 2-0. Meanwhile, check out this next play here. Second inning, Chung Bo-mo grounds out to third here, and wait a second, the ball gets stuck inside Lee Won-suk's jersey, but no harm done though. Meanwhile, Hanwha up 3-0 in the third. Hug Young-min with an RBI triple to right center field makes it 3-1. Next play, Jorge Cantu at bat, an RBI double this time, and it's now 3-2. But we're not done yet. Hong Sang-eun with a clutch single up the middle ties the ball game 3-3. Wait, let's make that 4-3 thanks to Yang Yi-ji's RBI double here, and Tucson's taking the lead. Fifth inning, both teams tied once again, but Yang Yi-ji says hello and goodbye. 3-run shot over the left field wall, and Tucson takes the lead again, 7-4. Meanwhile, after an on and off rain throughout the day and 30 hits between the two teams, the Tucson Bears take the series with a 9-6 win over the Hanwha Eagles. And staying with baseball, with the LA Dodgers taking on the Philadelphia Phillies, Josh Beckett tosses a no-hitter while striking out 6 hitters and walking 3. The Dodgers win 6-0, but for Josh Beckett, history has been made. And now with that said, moving over to the 2014 Women's Asian Cup, where South Korea faced off against China for the second time in the tournament, this time in the third-fourth place matchup. And with the match tied 1-1 with just a few minutes left in the clock, a last-minute goal from China gives Korea the 2-1 loss as they finish 4th in the tournament. And now moving on and staying with football, we're over to the 2014 UEFA Champions League final between Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid, who faced off in Lisbon. And now it took 120 minutes for the winner to be chosen. And despite Atletico looking for an upset win here after Diego Godin scores in the 36th minute of the match, Sergio Ramos, with the time winding down, scores in the 90+3 minutes and sends the match into extra time. And there, Real Madrid explodes as Gareth Bale, Marcelo, and Cristiano Ronaldo scores, giving Real Madrid the 4-1 victory as they claim their historic 10th European title over the weekend. And now finishing things off in track and field, where despite the absence of Usain Bolt, the Jamaican men's relay team set a new 1/800-meter world record at the IAAF World Relay Championship after coming in at its final time of 1 minute 18.63 seconds, breaking the previous record set in 1994 by 5/100th of a second. Congratulations to them, and with that said, that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day, and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Good morning, I'm Lee Ji-hyun with the latest weather updates. Well, it's hard not to notice how the sun rises earlier these days, and the mornings have gotten much warmer. And for today, daily low here in Seoul is starting out at 18 degrees Celsius, and daytime high should be slightly higher than yesterday, rising to mid-20s. And it was cloudy and rainy day yesterday, and those lingering rain from yesterday has cleared up in most regions, or it should be letting up right now. So unlike unsettled day we had yesterday, the weather should improve today. The sun and warm temperature is returning to the nation to kick off the new week. But the weather conditions have not been cooperating over in Chindo. Heavy rain, gusty winds, and foggy conditions swept the area over the weekend, but the rain is gradually letting up in Chindo, and waves should be calmer, but the winds will blow stronger than yesterday. With that in mind, let's take a closer look at the readings for today. The morning low here in Seoul is starting out at 18 and the high will rise 25, while Daegu tops out at 30 and Gwangju and Busan both should climb to 27 later on. Now for other regions, it looks like down on Jeju and Dokdo should see a high of 24 and Daejeon will reach 27, while Mount Keungang tops out at 16. Well, that's all for now. Enjoy your morning commute and hope you have a wonderful day. And I'll be back with more updates after 10.
Thank you very much, Jiyeon. And those are the stories we have for you at this hour. But Korea Today is coming up in about half an hour's time. They'll have more news for you. And we'll be back at the same time tomorrow. Until then, goodbye.